PingSunday has the special permission of Coach Chen Kangning. Please don't upload the video without the permission of Coach Chen and PingSunday.
Why did the first two shots go out of control? It's all about how you make contact with the ball. No matter how you flick it, the ball you're hitting isn't going to be pure. It's about the technique of striking, when you make contact with the ball. So why do you have to choose to play? If you think there's a slight chance, then go for it. What does rigid mean? It means I can only play when everything aligns perfectly. Do you think you can adjust this technique? So you need to look for opportunities to play the right balls. If it feels a bit forced, definitely don't do it, because you won't be able to adjust in that situation. All the techniques, right? You need to use your wrist a bit. Isn't it that you can adjust it, right? For example, with a half-long ball, I might have to handle it like this. The technique of flicking itself requires a short, focused impact. You can't move your wrist. Well, if you insist on flicking awkward balls, then you definitely made a mistake, right? So you can't play comfortably on an easy ball. If you move, you'll definitely lose control, right? Right, so just stay steady and make the shot. Isn't that disrupting the rhythm? Wait, just wait for a moment. Yes, wait for that moment. Very good. Now let me ask you, where do you hit the ball? Downward, forward, or downward again? Exactly. When you move forward, it actually looks a bit upward from the side. Moving forward means truly progressing. My center of gravity is fine as long as it remains stable. The feeling of slightly elevating your center of gravity is correct. I think you're being unreasonable while playing, right? Okay, I believe you need to focus on a few issues. First, enhance your understanding of the ball. Second, avoid making assumptions. Why? If you maintain this kind of thinking pattern, do you also create this kind of momentum? Nor can you assume anything. Everything you do must be based on reasoning. Do you understand? Then that action is incorrect. You need to correct it in time, right? You shouldn't swing your wrist randomly when making your first shot. The direction of your force must be precise. The second timing for a flick shot. It's not just any ball that you can flick, you know. When we teach children to loop the ball, we often feel that we need to generate topspin. To generate topspin, we often think we need to apply force upward. It's not about applying force upward. Opening from the side to return to the correct position, you're actually already moving forward. The second point is when you move forward. Because you use the force of this downward motion to create spin, it must have a certain upward trajectory. Including when you see the ball coming, your hand naturally pulls back slightly below the ball. So you are already setting up conditions that can generate friction. Right, so when these conditions are met, what you essentially do is learn how to apply friction to the ball. You allow it to find the right feel. You see, I often let our little friends, but it may be particularly difficult for very young children to achieve, because the kids who are just starting to learn to play are likely using those junior paddles, which are lighter and smaller, so they should be able to grip them. I just take all my fingers off the back, and I use a combination of my thumb and index finger. You see, doesn't this look like a small clamp? Right, it actually utilizes the coordination between the two. I've always emphasized that the thumb should grip slightly. The index finger works with your thumb to make minor adjustments. This is because your index finger can control the angle of the paddle. You can see that I'm using these two fingers. I can completely lift the ball. This already creates friction, but you don't need to lift too much. Lifting too much will cause your arc to be too high. Many children, including us adults, will be intimidated by this net. Look at how high this net is. It's as high as the top of the table, right? And your shot. Unless you intentionally wait for the late drop. If you hit this kind of high ball, most of your shots, are they not all above the table, or basically parallel to the table? You have already hit the ball. You cannot be under the table, so you are using your thumb and index finger. The two of them work together to create friction on the ball. Because once you create friction, it will inevitably produce a curve. Because you are generating topspin, it already has a curve and can easily go over. So you don't need to deliberately lift it up, right? So how do we solve this problem? You need to convey something to him. You need to return in the same direction. The person is directly facing the table, right? When you want to hit this ball, you gather your strength before pulling back. Okay, I pulled back from the center position. Ultimately, what kind of force direction do I want to demonstrate? It's called returning in the same direction, right? When my hand stays steady and follows back to the original path. I must move both forward and inward. So, what is a forehand loop? It involves pressing your thumb against your index finger to drive your upper wrist. Then, focus on your wrist. The angle between your thumb and index finger represents your upper wrist. And the extension of your little finger indicates your lower wrist. Many kids will encounter this when executing a loop. Does he move his lower wrist in this situation? This also applies to backhand loops, right? In table tennis, we need to utilize the thumb. The thumb helps drive your wrist. The forehand shot moves from the outside to the inside. The thumb and index finger work together. This is an inward rotation process. It involves the thumb, index finger, and wrist. This extends to the muscles of your forearm. This is what we refer to as the contraction of the forearm. Instead of something done on purpose, if you want to consciously retract your forearm, many people have hit like this. Isn't this what many coaches say? Okay, kids are very obedient. This is the result that occurs. Right, actually, retracting the forearm isn't done on purpose. You see, I'll execute to more forehands like this. From the outside in, this is the adjustment. But the adjustment only progresses forward. Moving forward means elevating your game. Right, you might not notice it from the opposite angle. If I consciously advance, I'm actually elevating. So there has to be a process of inward rotation, because only by rotating inward, you can press down, right, if I'm only moving forward. The paddle is facing up towards the ceiling, so your force should be directed upwards. And there's something wrong here. Because the table isn't infinitely long, when you move forward to a certain point, you'll subconsciously ease up on your strength, and you will lose power. Why? Because when you apply force, you're afraid of hitting out. So subconsciously, what will happen? You will lose power. We must rotate it inward. But it's not just about consciously pulling in the forearm. This is the forehand. Everyone can give it a try. You can feel the friction. The direction of force is from high to low. Isn't it all about this part? It's all about this. That's how we create friction. Why did the first two shots go out of control? Your wrist flicked again. No matter how you flick it, the ball you're hitting isn't going to be pure. So, do you understand? It should be purely vertical. You need to maintain stability. So why do you have to choose to play? If you think there's a slight chance, then go for it. What does rigid mean? It means I can only play when everything aligns perfectly. Do you think you can adjust this technique? So you need to look for opportunities to play the right balls. If it feels a bit forced, definitely don't do it, because you won't be able to adjust in that situation. All the techniques, right? Use your fingers and wrist more. The more difficult and awkward the ball is. Isn't it necessary to fully use your fingers and wrist to adjust this ball? The technique of flicking itself requires a short, focused impact. You can't move your wrist. Well, if you insist on flicking awkward balls, then you definitely made a mistake, right? So you can't play comfortably on an easy ball. If you move, you'll definitely lose control, right? Right, so just stay steady and make the shot. Isn't that disrupting the rhythm? Wait, just wait for a moment. Yes, wait for that moment. Very good. Now let me ask you, where do you hit the ball? Downward, forward, or downward again? Exactly. When you move forward, it actually looks a bit upward from the side. Moving forward means truly progressing. My center of gravity is fine as long as it remains stable. The feeling of slightly elevating your center of gravity is correct. I think you're being unreasonable while playing, right? Okay, I believe you need to focus on a few issues. First, enhance your understanding of the ball. Second, avoid making assumptions. Why? If you maintain this kind of thinking pattern, do you also create this kind of momentum? Nor can you assume anything. Everything you do must be based on reasoning. Do you understand? Then that action is incorrect. You shouldn't swing your wrist randomly when making your first shot. The direction of your force must be precise. The second timing for a flick shot. It's not just any ball that you can flick, you know?
球如果在这儿呢，你更要用右脚。为什么？你是要通过垫步，然后卡过来当出手。那你看右脚拉正，是不是又回到左脚了？好了，这是不是有一个判断、调整取位的过程？就是利用垫步加一个小单步来取位。所以说是什么啊？就是在身体里面的，你一定是右脚、左脚。那怎么用右脚？垫步原地点一下。 原地右脚点一下，就视为你出了一步。你原地走一步，不也是一步吗？好了，那你必须要动脚的时候，那你就是垫步来走。那你说我这个左脚都出去一小步了，我能重心在右脚上吗？我都变成这样了，这不可能。所以说，当你垫步出这一个单步的时候，你的重心必然落到你的左脚上。那这个时候怎么办？左脚带着你的肚皮一顶结束，又完成了一个回正的转换。 所以说，我们要宏观来看这件事情，它不是一成不变的。你的重心在哪里，是随着球的位置的变化，你来调整重心。
Let me teach you a little trick. Stand with your back to the table. You got it, right? This is the first one. The second one is when you're facing the table normally. Remember one thing, you must not stand too far back and forth. You need to because I noticed yesterday that many kids in our training sessions we are still teaching kids with some outdated methods. It's just that they tend to stand a bit sideways. So why doesn't he transition well when he changes? When he steps back a little, you can see where the power is stuck. Exactly, it's stuck right here. You see, we don't need to intentionally twist our waist. Intentionally twisting the waist actually disconnects from the lower body. Feel the small bones on both sides and pull back. Just applying power here is enough. Rotate to the correct position. As long as you don't lift your left foot, you've actually completed the transition. Do you understand? Why? Because when you prepare, you're facing the ball. It's because the ball is coming to your forehand. You need to create space to hit the ball. You need to position yourself sideways to the ball. Why? Because the hitting point is in front of your body, to the side. To put it simply, the goal of this movement is still to have your upper body facing the ball. If you don't move, isn't he at the side? It's precisely because you angled your body that he got into position. Instead, your body is facing him directly. But if you just stand there with the ball in front of you, you feel awkward and find it hard to turn. That's why some kids stand to sideways. What situation might that lead to? It might lead to a forward and backward push. Because your basic stance is too angled, then it becomes difficult for them to rotate. He's doing it like this, right? What should he do? He just walks straight in. Originally, if our force is like this, if it is a tangible line, it is transmitted from here, right? The force follows this external arc line coming here, right? But if you angle it, what problem will arise? Don't you think so? The backhand slice always leaks the ball, always leaks the ball. Okay, you hit two, so I know why you're leaking. Wow, half the side. Not bad. Everything within 10 meters is in your S power range. Ah, okay. Ah, I understand. Listen to me. Look, all the edges of your racket are in this position. It indicates that some balls are on the left side of your body. You have a bit too much confidence. Confidence regarding your height. You think you can cover all the balls standing here. You lack a bit of footwork adjustment. Because this ball is to the left side of your body. You are a bit far from your body. This is not called leaking. But I observed you again. You don't have a pressing stroke. Your draw doesn't have a deliberate pressing stroke. because it can't make contact with the ball like this. When it turns back, it becomes a flick. So I don't recommend our amateur players to say there's too much pressure on the draw. This type of board is relatively. The ball is aimed at this face. You shouldn't have any problem with this. Furthermore, I've been observing your positioning on the edge of the board is outside of your stance, right? Didn't you say it was here? Being here might indicate an issue with the board shape. To put it simply, what are you lacking? Missing the left foot. Excellent. All right. Still at the edge of the table. All right. WOUNG. Stuck in position. Very good. Step in with a single step, right? The direction of the single step is still a bit off. Then, increase your stride a little. Isn't that how you handle short balls? Okay. It's not easy to miss the ball now, right? So why did you miss? Your foot shouldn't get stuck in place. That's why I keep emphasizing stepping in plus a single step. You can only pull the ball with your hand. If your positioning feels slightly off your hand, you will encounter problems. Moreover, what will you do? Some people are careless and think, it seems my backhand is all in my hand, right? Isn't it just a little off here or there? But don't underestimate this small deviation. You definitely need to make slight adjustments to correct it. If you don't position yourself correctly, it's a bit cramped here. You're sticking out a little. You're always a bit off. Being a little off can lead to big mistakes.
Read more about table tennis on my blog, PingSunday.com. Get free ebook and coaching advices. See you in the next video.